Hey everybody, Caleb from Bailey Hill Build. It's been a while. Hope you all are doing good. This is update. We've got our rough wire inspected and approved, and I didn't have a single issue, so that's really exciting and feels really good. A lot of hard work went into that. It's been a long time getting this house wired. We've gone through lots of wire. A lot of holes drilled, a lot of wires pulled, zip ties used, etc., as you can see here. So we've also done a little bit on our radiant heating system. I've got a boiler on order. That's a water heater for a domestic. I did get a combi boiler, so we kind of have redundancy in case we lose one. So that'll be pretty cool. I'll have a future video on that one. This is a Manablock water distribution for domestic, hot, cold. So I ran home runs, as you guys remember from previous videos, to all my fixtures. No splices, so hopefully no issues ever down the road. But I just want to take you through some of the things I learned on the wiring. That's mainly what this video is for. As you can see, we're pretty far along actually, and we're getting to a point now where we're doing some, say hi, Morg.
I'm like, who are you talking to?
We're getting to a point where we're insulating, so that's pretty exciting. But anyhow, one thing that I want to teach everyone, or not teach, but let you know about in terms of wiring code, because I didn't know this, is your bathrooms need to be wired in a fashion that all of your receptacles are on their own circuit. So when I originally wired this bathroom, for instance, you know, I had the light, I don't have the fart fan yet, but I had the fart fan light combo tied in with the receptacles. And my electrical inspector said, no, that's not code compliant. You need to separate that. So went through and pulled another home run, no big deal. That's something that took me a little bit more time, so if I would have known up front, you know, it would have saved us a little bit of time, not a ton, but something I didn't know. And then another thing was the junction boxes that I used. This here goes underground through that Liquid-Tight, through a 2-inch conduit up into the mechanical room that you saw earlier in the video and in previous videos. And I purposely designed that to come into the kitchen because I knew I was going to have a lot of circuits, and I wanted the shortest path in order to save time and effort. And if any of those circuits ever went bad, I could literally pull the circuits out and replace them for the kitchen, main part of the house. So I never knew this, but you cannot pull a Romex wire, 12 gauge, or even if it was 14 gauge, you cannot pull this through conduit. You have to buy THHN wire, which is basically just the wire that resides in the Romex. It's a little different, but it's got a heavier coating and stuff. That's actually THHN / THWN, so it's like water resistant, oil resistant, so forth. But as you can see, lots of circuits went into here. I've got 7 circuits in here. I'll take everyone through these circuits real quick. This is the hardest part about wiring a house. Circuit number 1, microwave. Circuit number 2, beyond the insulation, is the refrigerator. Circuit number 3 was one of the countertop small appliance circuits. You need a minimum of 2. So circuit number 4 was the other. Circuit number 5 was for this, dedicated for the stove and the hood, vent hood for the stove. And then circuit number 6 was the dishwasher over here. And 7 was for the lights, and your lights have to be separate. So, you know, I didn't know that. I only pulled 5 at first, had to pull all those out, tape 2 more circuits to my run, pull them back through. It wasn't that bad, but I really recommend using 2-inch or 1.5-inch conduit. Make sure you get yourself some space to pull wire through if you're going to do that. And use long turn elbows. Do not use regular 90 elbows. You will never get wire through it. And then I just want to show you one thing I'm doing here. This is something that I'm sure has been done in the past by others. But here is, for example, a series of wires coming into this switch box, triple gang, right? I've got 3 switches coming out of this bad boy. Tons of wires coming into it. It's a wreck, right? So if you're an electrician someday, 20 years down the road, how do you know what's what? Well, I just bought these little labels off Amazon, and I label each piece coming in, and this will help me too when I go to wire my actual devices in here. I'll know what's going on. So they were $11 for 600 labels on Amazon. It's well worth the money. I've been pretty much doing that, even on receptacles that I've got those labels in there. So, and then another thing you guys have probably seen, I'll just point out real quick here, is these are Gardner Bender stacker connectors. They're pretty cool. I'll just show one here. This thing just snaps in, right? And these pop out. So if you have to change something real quick, pop the wire out, move it around, reorganize it, put it back, and you're golden. You know, you have to staple a wire every 42 inches, I believe, by code. I'm not an expert on all these little codes I'm not an electrician either, but hey, I just did my house and we passed, so that's good. But I just wanted to show everybody, we did definitely, 24-inch on center. It keeps it neater. It keeps wires from dangling and a screw hitting them when you're doing finishes, so it's worth it. It's not a lot of money. It's really not that much time. I'd recommend that. Here's the other end of that junction box for the kitchen. As you can see here, I got 2. This line goes over to the fireplace. This line is the same line that goes over to the kitchen. So 7 circuits here, and then 2 circuits going over the fireplace, which gives me a total of 9 circuits coming in here to connect to. So I'm just gonna wire nut these together. I actually bought this grounding bar. Since this is a metal panel, it really needs to be grounded to the structure of the house, the building, since it's metal. And that little ground bar goes right where that screw is. Got to take that screw out and move it right there. But put that grounding bar there and run my grounds into it. And it'll actually make it easier anyways. But again, I'm going to label everything. And yeah, that should be pretty simple to get stuff lit up over there. So lots more to come in terms of the mechanical room. This is my favorite part here. This is kind of what I do for a living. And then looking at this mess, this is going to be fun. But if anyone has any good ideas of how to manage the cable from this point down into my panel, nice and neat. I don't know if I can probably use those stackers. But I'm going to have to look up the code as to how many 12 gauge wires can go into one knockout, and whatever size it is, if it's 1/2 inch or 3/4 or whatever. And then the last thing I want to mention with the panel, I got lucky. I didn't think about this, but new code requires you to pretty much have arc fault breakers throughout your house, pretty much everywhere. Some areas you need ground fault protection, so there's multiple ways to skin that cat. You can do a ground fault receptacle in a bathroom, for instance, next to a sink on an arc fault breaker, so you're dual covered. Or you can just buy a dual function breaker, which is like this blue one right here, dual purpose combination AFCI GFCI. This is just a temporary circuit we have that just goes up to this outlet right here. We're running lights and tools and stuff from, but the reason I bring this up is this panel, I'm gonna carefully take this off. Stand by, hopefully I don't get shocked. This panel is what you call a plug-on neutral panel. Plug-on neutral, right? So instead of the typical old-fashioned way to wire a panel where your neutrals went into a neutral bar, like right there, since these are arc fault breakers, those breakers sense the heat coming back on the neutral, in a sense, is how they work, and they'll trip based on heat on the arc fault side or arcing or something going on. And then the ground fault, same thing. Sense short to ground and they'll trip. So with the plug-on neutral, if this was not a plug-on neutral panel, this breaker here would come with this white pigtail neutral that you'd have to land on the neutral bar. Well, since this is a plug-on neutral, that little bar right there is exactly how it sounds. When you put that breaker in there, it eliminates that pigtail. You press it right onto there and you wire your neutral right into the breaker itself. So it saves you a step, saves you space in your panel, much neater and easier to wire. So I think pretty much they're selling them like this all over nowadays, but I mean, there's a chance you could buy a panel from someone at an auction or something. Just be aware of that. If I had this over to do again, I would also get a bigger panel. This is like a 40 space panel is what it is. I would go like, if I can get like 50 or whatever, I would do that, because I've got 30 circuits here, and I mean, I feel like I'm not skimping, and I didn't go overboard either. I'm just doing what's code compliant. So I've only really got 10 spaces left, and actually, I'm sorry, 32 spaces include, this counts my dryer, and then I don't even have my well pump, and that'll be a double pull. So I'll have like 6 spaces left on my panel. Something to think about, you know, if you're doing this and you wanted to attach to garage and expand that someday, you're definitely gonna either want to do a sub panel, feeder off this, or feed it off your service differently. We did an underground service down over the hill, down by that tree. So I have a pedestal. Let me go walk out and see it real quick. There's a pedestal down there with my meter disconnect, and there's actually, that's technically the main panel. That panel inside the house is technically a sub panel. So that's my primary. So I actually can put another feeder into that meter disconnect, and I can run it over to here if I wanted a garage right here someday. So that's one positive if you go with that route. And if I want to shut that breaker off to my house, I can kill power on my entire panel in there, which means the feeder wires above the breaker won't even be hot, and I can take them right out of the panel, change the panel out. Normally in your house, if you just kill the breaker here, you're only killing the power from here down, in a sense. The buses are not hot in the breakers, but those lugs up there are still hot. You still got power coming in off your meter. So if you pull the meter on a house, I don't know if I said that correctly, if you pull the meter, you're killing the power to these. But if you pull your meter on your house, your electric company is going to come visit you. That's a no-no, or you got to get an electrical inspection, as far as I understand it. So I think that's about it. Really apologize, we haven't done more videos. We're trying to get in this thing and live, man. We just want to live. There's our rat nest, the Cat 6. Morgan thinks I'm nuts for running Cat 6, so all my tech buddies out there, make sure you make it well known that it's worth it. Let her know. We got drops to TVs. We got drops. We got a drop up there for a Wi-Fi booster. So we tried thinking for the future. We've got Ring doorbell drops. That was her request, everybody. I always leave slack. I'm gonna cut this off before we insulate, so if I have to pull that through someday and rewire it, I can do that. It's another thing. And then one last thing. Pulling jet line through a conduit. If you don't know this, and you wanna try to get a line through that so you can pull a wire through it, you can take a piece of a grocery bag, tie that, like for instance, we'll just say this, this bag right here. If I took just a small, 6x6, big as your hand, piece off of that, tie your jet line around that, and put it in one end of the conduit that you want to pull wire or string through. Turn on your shop vac, and you won't have a problem pulling string through it. That's a trick that I learned from working at Noyes Hospital. So anyways, if anyone has any comments or questions, hit me up. Morgan and I are having fun. She's doing all the hard work. She's doing insulation. It's getting in her eyes probably.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But there's if you guys see what that is right there? Oh yeah. She's into them.
I'm all good.
No, we're just kidding. But you know what? The days are getting longer. The nights are getting shorter. The horses are getting muddier. And yeah, we're getting closer to living here, which is pretty cool. That's a mess, but
And we're still building.
we're still building. We're still thriving. We're rolling in mud. And we're brewing some Old Panther version 3. So if everyone wants to stop up sometime and say hello, you're more than welcome to. Everyone have a great night. Like I said, let me know if you have questions. Morgan and I are always happy to answer and show the house to people if you're interested. And this, again, this is to help people. And we're telling you the good and the bad here, folks. So please like and subscribe for more updates. Everyone have a nice night.